The first time I saw her, she stood at the edge of my field. She did not move. The wind pushed through the wheat and bent the stalks around her legs. She looked carved from stone tall, and thin her ribs showed through grey-green skin. Her shoulders sagged. As if the world pressed down on them, one ear was torn. Her tusks were small and worn smooth. She looked tired in a way that went deeper than hunger. I knew what she was, an Orcovary story. I had ever heard said the same thing. Gorks, raid orcs, burn orcs. Like me lose everything when orcs come, so I should have Rooney, should have grabbed my rifle. I should have called for the town guard instead. I stood there and looked at her. She swayed once. Then she dropped to one knee, not a battle stance, not a charge. She was falling. That was when I saw it clearly. She was starving. There is a difference between a warrior and someone who has given up. I had seen hunger before, during the long winter when crops failed and children cried at night. Her eyes had that same hollow look. I walked back to my porch. My hands shook. I told myself this was foolish, one mistake and I would die, but I could not forget the way she fell. I grabbed a loaf of bread, still warm from the morning. Bakai picked up 2 apples from the crate by the Jordan. I walked toward her, slow steps, careful steps. My heart pounded so hard, it felt like it would burst from my chest. She watched. Menno Snarno raised weapon, just empty eyes. I stopped several paces away, placed the bread on the ground, then I stepped back. For a long moment neither of us moved. Then she crawled forward, not like a predator, like someone afraid the food might vanish. She grabbed the bread and pulled it close. She tore into it. She ate too fast. I almost told her to slow down, but I stayed silent. When she finished, she looked at the apples in my hand. I tossed them gently. She caught one against her chest. The other fell into the dirt. She picked it up carefully and brushed it clean. Then she stood. She looked stronger, already not healed, not whole, but alive. She studied. May could not read her expression. Then she turned and walked away toward the hills. I stood there long after she vanished. I told no one, not the neighbors, not the town guard. It felt like something small and private. The next morning I woke to drums, deep, heavy drums that shook the air. I knew that sound war drums. I ran outside. They were everywhere. Orcs filled the road and the fields, dozens of them, huge and armed. Axes and spears glinted in the sun. They surrounded my farm without a word. My stomach dropped. This was the price. 2 warriors stepped forward. They seized my arms. Their grip was iron. They dragged me into the center of the field. I did not fight. There was no point. In the middle of the circle stood the female I had fed. She looked different. Her back was straight. Her eyes were clear. Strength had returned to her frame. Beside her stood an ancient Orcus. Skin was pale with ages, tusks cracked. He leaned on a staff carved from bone. He looked at me as if weighing my soul. You fed her, he said. His voice was rough but steady. Yes, I said. The tribe murmured. Some growled, some stared in disbelief. The old orc raised his staff, and silence fell. You knew she was one of Usias. The question hung in the air. Searched for a clever answer. There was none. She was hungry. I said, that is all. The tribe erupted in angry noise. The old orc silenced them again. He studied my face. You feared her, yes, but you fed her, yes. He nodded slowly. He turned to his people and spoke in their tongue. The words rolled deep and harsh. The tribe listened in. Many struck their chests in unison. The sound echoed across the field. My pulse raced. Was this a sentence, an execution ritual? The old orc faced me again. You will come with you. See, expected ropes, chains, blows. None came. They simply formed around me and began to walk. I walked because I had no choice. We traveled into the hills, beyond any map I owned, through narrow passes and over broken stone. At last we entered a hidden valley. There I saw the truth. This was not an army, it was a remnant. There were few children. Young warriors, most were old, most carried grief in their eyes. The female stepped beside Mesh, spoke slowly in broken human words. My name, Grokkai, not a die. Tomashay tried to repeat it, and failed. Then she gave a small grunt that might have been a laugh. They brought me before a central fire. The old orc planted his staff in the earth. This is Grokka, he said, last fertile daughter of broken tooth. The words sank in slowly, last fertile daughter. He continued, our hunters were slain in wars with your kind. Lands burned our mother's deed. Grokka lost hope. She chose to walk into your fields, and starve. I felt a chill move through me. He looked at me with piercing eyes. You gave her bread, yes. You gave her reason to live. I had no grand intention. I only saw hunger. Old Orc nodded, as if he understood that better than anything. Our law is old, he said. When an outsider saves the last mother, that outsider becomes bloodbound. The tribe began to beat their chests against low and powerful. You are not our enemy, you are under our protection. I stared at him. Protection, not punishment. The word felt unreal. Grokka stepped forward. She placed her large hand against her chest, then gently against mine. Human fed Grokka, she said. Human saved future. Her voice shook not from weakness, from emotion. I swallowed hard. Had expected to die instead. I stood in the heart of an orc tribe as something close to an ally. They kept me there for several days, not as a prisoner, as a guest. They shared their food, simple stews and roasted roots. They showed me the graves of their fallen. They spoke of battles and betrayal, of humans who hunted them for sport, of villagers that cheered when orc heads were displayed on walls. I felt shame burn in my chest. Ty had believed the stories about monsters. They had believed stories about us. Both sides carried scars. When they walked me back to my farm, they did so openly. Warriors on either side of me, not threatening, guarding at my gate. The old orc stopped. If danger comes, call, he said. Broken tooth answers life. Detka Grak removed a cord from around her neck. A single carved tooth hung from Itchy. Placed it in my hand. Friend, she said. Then they turned and left. Seasons passed. The tribe began to visit, not to raid, to trade. That brought cured meat and strong leather. I offered grain and tools. We spoke more easily each time. Laughter replaced suspicion. One spring morning, I saw small figures among them. Children, orc children running through the grass. Grokka walked behind them with pride in her stride. One child broke from the group and ran to me. He held a piece of bread in both hands. Human food good, he declared. Laughed the sound surprised. MIT felt light looking at those children. I understood something simple. Kindness is a seed. You place it in the ground, not knowing if it will grow. You risk losing it too, risk being hurt, but sometimes it takes root in soil you never expected. The day I fed a starving orc, I believed I was risking my life. In truth, I was saving more than one. The valley no longer echoed with drums of war. It carried the sound of children, and all of it began with a loaf of bread given to someone the world called a monster. Sometimes the bravest act is the smallest ones. Sometimes humanity is proven not by strength but by mercy, and sometimes the future of two peoples can change because one farmer chose to feed the hungry instead of fear them.